Hello and welcome to my channel. We have a Micro Models card kit and it's on Bishopsgate in London. On the reverse of the pack we've got some information about the company. This is actually quite tiny. Let's open up and see what's inside. I would just like to point out that these kits were designed in the 1950s, so it'll be interesting to see how they compare next to modern kits. So we have some paperwork with some very small writing on it, and we've got 6 cards containing all the pieces we need. That bit of paper contains some history about London, but unfortunately it's way too small to read. Here's all 6 cards containing the actual kit. Nothing has been pre-cut, so it will all have to be done by hand. For some extra strength, I'm going to glue the base and the background onto another sheet of cardboard. I tried using the brush to spread out the PVA glue, but my finger worked much better. And once I've placed them on, I put some weights on top of them and leave them to one side to set. I find overnight is best for something like this, and it's a good idea to get a sharp hobby knife for the next step. Once those have set, they can be cut out. The base is nice and straightforward if you use a ruler. You'll have to freehand the curve, so be careful with that. The backdrop has a lot of complicated shapes, so you need to take your time, and I found it much easier to freehand these. Next we're going to cut out the buildings on card 2, and these will be located on the right hand side of the gate. We also need to lightly score the edges. This is so we can fold them back and actually build up the building. It's always good practice to fold them first before gluing, otherwise they'll try and pop open before the glue can set. One thing I realised very quickly with this kit is that most of the buildings do not have tabs, so you have to try and think 1 or 2 steps ahead, and if you've got space, cut out a tab, as that will give the glue something to hold on to. As you can see, this first building doesn't have any tabs, and it's a bit of a nightmare to glue together. The next step is to make the roof, which falls into an M shape first, and then that can be glued on top. And there's also an M shape cut out for the front. This is very thin, so make sure your blade is very sharp when you're cutting it out, otherwise it will just tear. Next I cut out and glue into place the 2 extending rooms, and that's followed up by gluing on the roof. Thankfully the slow setting glue allows plenty of time to nudge it into place. Then I use the cotton bud to wipe off any excess. Next I add on the chimneys. I nearly didn't use these as they were almost impossible to fold because of their incredibly small size. Now this building can be attached to the base. Luckily the area is blacked out, so we know exactly where you need to go. And the same applies for the little wall in front. And now we can move on to the central castle section, and we will need card number 3 and 4 for this. Since we know roughly how these are assembled, we'll skip ahead to the finished pieces. Despite the instructions being very vague, this is what I've come up with. I do have extra pieces left over, but I don't think anyone will notice. These are all glued into place, and as before, I follow the silhouettes. I had to push them together quite tightly so they don't go over their designated area. I'm assuming that some of the missed pieces are supposed to be fence posts lying in the driveway. It would have been nice if the instructions declared that, so they wouldn't get missed off, as I ended up using them elsewhere. Now that the glue's set, this is how it's all looking. Now it's time to move on to our last card, which is number 5. And this will give us our final building. And here it is, all assembled. I just need to glue it into place. And following that, I stick the background on, and it should line up with the houses. We're left with some very noticeable white areas, so I added a little bit of paint to those, and they no longer stick out like a sore thumb. And that's the Micro Model Bishopsgate kit completed. Now I must say that this kit has potential. The biggest problem with it has very few instructions, so you're left guessing what to do half the time. It could also do with being just a little bit bigger, because some of the pieces are just so tiny they're almost impossible to work with. But then again, if those changes were made, it would no longer be cheap. And that's the trade-off. Thank you for watching, Don't forget, if I can do it, so can you.